Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing out there? It's Go Do Your Own Research. Thank you for joining me again as we continue with our live reading of the Justin Baldoni deposition from October 7th, 2025. And in tonight's episode, we will be finishing up Justin's deposition. It's going to get really juicy very quickly. There's some conversation or there's some discussion about him calling people a liar and him spiraling. And yeah, I think he got served in this deposition, but you make your own minds up. That's why this is called Go Do Your Own Research. And then once I finish that, we're going to move on to Alex Sachs and play some interview with her to get an idea of what kind of person Justin was dealing with there. So without further ado, let's carry on from where we left off yesterday, which was on page 89 of 104. We do have some text message receipts here as well lined up. I've really put the effort in for today. So we got up to Baldoni was being questioned by Gottlieb, and he said that, did it occur to you that the reason why the people believed about the stuff that people were saying about him could possibly because they were right? So we left it there. And then we skip to page 278, which says, so we're going back to this meeting which was prearranged. Justin had known about this 17-point list, or he'd known about the list since November. And this was at the beginning of January, before they were going back into production. So, yes, along with her husband and her best friend. And the kind of person who could help get the message, the important message of your movie out, right? Objection. Yes, I hope that would be a big part of it. Mr. Gottlieb, so would you have disagreed in December of 2022 if somebody had said to you, Ms. Lively has got a terrible, well-known reputation in the industry. Nobody likes her. Objection. Nobody told me that. Question from Mr. Gottlieb. If Katie Case or Brianna Koslow, that's the two former TAG employees of Melissa and Nathan, had told you in December of 2022, would you have found that very surprising? Objection. I don't think I can speculate on that. Okay, on the previous page, 18853 at 11:01 a.m., you say of Ms. Lively, as read, she had the nuclear bomb. If she doesn't promote the movie, she can leak that I'm a bad person, or that she felt unsafe with me and all the stuff she has on me. Then she's the victim. It's the Taylor Swift playbook, so she can ask for whatever she wants, because she knows I know. Do you see that? I do. Did you mean that? Objection! What part of it? Gottlieb. All of it. I don't know. You had agreed to the conditions that Miss Lively asked for to return to set, right? Yes. And upon the return to production, so far as production on the set went, things went pretty well, right? According to your own complaint, everything went great. Then we jump to page 281. Refer to her, Miss Lively, leaking, I'm a bad person, or that she felt unsafe with me. Objection. Justin says, I think when you are somebody small in the industry, like myself, and you're dealing with a titan like Ms. Lively and some of the most powerful people in the world, which are her best friends, and you're in the situation that I was in, I think it's very reasonable, especially at this point, to be concerned about what's possible and what's not. I was spinning at this point. So Gottlieb says, is there anything else you can think of other than the material contained within the 17-point list or the list that Ms. Lively read from on January 4th, 2024, that as you sit here today, you might have been referring to when you referred to a nuclear bomb that could be leaked? Objection. Nothing about the 17-point list, but I assure you that that list that was read to me contained complete fabrications of the truth. So I very well could have had that be a part of what I felt scared of, lies. But I didn't know. I didn't know anything. I knew that at this point, my gut feeling was that she was going to take over the film. Gottlieb says, lies? When you say lies, you mean lies insinuating that you had made Ms. Lively feel unsafe. No, that's not what I mean. Lies insinuating that you had sexually harassed Ms. Lively? Objection. No, I'm speaking about lies in general. Gottlieb says, you're the co-head of Wayfarer Studios, are you not? I am the co-chairman. The co-chairman of Wayfarer Studios, but the executives answer to you and Mr. Sarowitz. Objection, objection. The executives answer to our CEO, and our CEO reports to me and Sarowitz. And you testified earlier that you could fire the CEO if you wanted to. I imagine I could do. Yeah. I imagine I could. And it's Mr. Sarowitz's money that financed this particular project. Is that right? Co-financed. Co-financed? Yes. If you had wanted to, you could have just decided not to go forward with the movie, right? Objection. At what point? At any point. Not necessarily. As of February 23, 2024, could you have pulled the plug on the movie? I don't believe so. Even you don't believe you could have done so without inviting litigation. Is that what you're saying? Objection. I believe this was the biggest project that we'd ever invested in, ever had, and we had a tremendous amount of money invested in it, and so did Sony, who were our partners. So we had an obligation, a fiduciary obligation to Sony and to Steve's family to not pull out of the film, to not lose money, to not lose that money. Objection. It wasn't just about money. It was one of the major factors, yes. Okay, but nonetheless, you're the co-founder of the studio, right? Yes. You're the director of the film, right? Yes. You are the co-lead actor, right? Yes. You are an executive producer, right? At that time I was. That is a lot of accumulated power on one movie, is it not? Objection. It is, and also, I don't think it's unusual. Is that the typical arrangement that you're familiar with? Oh, we've jumped again. We've jumped to page 289. To Mr. Heath for what you are saying the night before, right? At 2:23 p.m. on the 27th on page 33565. Yeah, I believe we could sum it up that way. And what you say is you've just come out of therapy and you're purging bleep out and exhausted, and then you say, so much fear of Blake coming out and going public about how I'm a bad person and unsafe and not who I say I am. Do you see that? I do. And that's similar language to the fear that you described to Mr. Van Winkle in the document we just looked at a few moments ago from February, right? Objection. I believe so. You were very concerned that Miss Lively would go public with some of the materials or allegations that had been contained in the 17-point list and in the list you read on January 4th. Objection. Again, I disagree with anything to do with the 17-point list. But you think it might have referred to items that were in the January 4th list. Objection. I'm sure I had feelings about the lies that I felt were in the January 4th meeting, but I think it's a very reasonable feeling that I'm expressing here. Mr. Baldoni, was the thought of someone saying publicly that you are not who you say you are one of your biggest fears? I think based on where I was emotionally in my healing journey therapy at the time in going through this film, I would imagine that was a fear, yes. And that's what you're referencing here to Mr. Heath, isn't it? With your reference to the little boy that you're so intertwined with. Objection! I'm just out of therapy and clearly not very sober in terms of my emotional state. That is a really strange choice of word. So I was extremely sensitive and vulnerable and clearly in a very dark place at that moment. Gottlieb says, I understand, and I'm sorry to press on it. But you're saying to Mr. Heath, I think, particularly in this carryover message at 2:33 p.m. on 27th, that your personality is being overrun by this little boy who feels scared and threatened. Is that what you're conveying to Mr. Heath in this message? Objection. No. That's not what you meant by he's been running the show when he feels scared and threatened, and that's who you get so frustrated with. Objection. What I meant by that is, in moments of intense emotion, in moments where I'm short or can get angry very quickly, in those moments, I believe that is the little boy in me that doesn't feel safe. And it's in those moments, like with me. Oh, okay. So I just wanted to quickly, if I can find it. Oh, no, that's the flipping one, flipping the script. So I wasn't sure which message he was talking about in February, but I wanted to show the Baha'i Bros group chat. Let me get rid of that for a minute. Oops. Stop screen. 1065.1. There we go. So this is a group chat to Ahmed Musial, Jamie Heath, Steve's Batphone, Cyrus Sigari, Travis Van Winkle, Andy Grammer, Rainn Wilson, Adam Munsheen, Sam Baldoni, and I think that's it. And it says, "Hey fellas, I know it's been a while since I texted this group, but alas, Jamie and I are back in New Jersey trying to finish the film, and prayers are appreciated. Just wanted to give you a little update. These first few days have been torturous, up there with the worst of all of them, but I preface the below with the fact that I am actually okay. Jamie is more than okay, but we are getting through it. The amount I've grown since last time is even surprising me. I cried yesterday because I felt the protection and the deep knowing I am not what I am being portrayed as. I feel protected and clear. Jamie has been unwavering, and I believe it will all be okay. So, then he talks about, we made the bet the strike would end and spent money to send the team back to Jersey. The actresses' team knew this was happening. The actresses' team, you know. All was going amazing. Then the strike ended as we hoped. ... In an effort to gain power over me personally and the studio, we received a legal letter citing how unsafe I and the workplace were for the actors, and that she wouldn't return to work unless we meet 17 conditions and send her the unfinished director's cut of her movie. Of her movie? The movie. Also, that she has been considering leaving the film and not returning to work because she has legal right to do so. We have responded and met the conditions, and after she sees the film, she will decide. The good news is I'm so proud of what's been shot and cut together. So we have the goods there, but shoot stuff all in limbo as we're waiting. Pretty tough stuff to digest, as of course we all know what this document insinuates, that I am unsafe, sexually harassing, etc. There's even silly things inferring Jamie was inappropriate, which is silly. How silly. It's all manipulation. We don't believe she will leave or leak to press. We don't believe she will leave or leak to press. But this is her threat of a nuclear bomb, as she knows this is the only way to get to me. I believe this is in part punishment for standing my ground and not giving her little things she wanted. In working through it and staying positive and remembering who I am, just letting you know the situation I've been in, that I appreciate prayers of protection to stay in my strength. Don't want to talk about it, dwell on it, or curse her. In fact, want the opposite. Pray for her soul, for light to fill it. I'm staying as positive as I can. In know I have protection. This is where being a Baha'i matters. Can I send love, not be a victim or curse her, and still somehow show up and direct and act with kindness in my heart? All that's left for 3 weeks is our intense work together. This is what I could use prayers and strength for. I trust this group immensely. I love you all, and no talking about this with anyone. Just prayers for your boys over here, being painted in a way I never thought possible. We will overcome. Ya Baha Uabila. Andy Grammer says, sending immense love and patience. You are guided and loved. You were made and born to be able to get through this. Love you guys. Prayers coming. Keep walking with the remembrance of God in your heart through the journey. Let his words resound in what you hear, his guidance reflect in everything you see, and let his truth be the backbone of strength and light that you stand tall in. Keep choosing love. Keep choosing mercy. God knows we all need that. And his dad says, and we will keep repeating this prayer. Is there any remover of difficulties save God? Say, praise be God. He is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. Then we have Rainn Wilson, who is an actor, saying, Justin, this is heartbreaking and infuriating. I'm so sorry for what you're going through. What a test has been sent your way. I believe in you, in your heart, talent, and integrity. Keep Abdul Baha literally by your side through this. Justin says, thank you, brothers. Prayers being sent, I will include you in my daily morning devotions. You are so loved, brother. Keep standing in your light. The prayers will surround you. Justin says, love you all deeply and no better person to be in the storm with, and Jamie, who has been incredible. But who this also affects, I'm happy he allowed himself to feel for a short bit the other night. What? Happy he allowed himself to feel for a short bit the other night. I don't know what that means. Jamie says, you are also wonderful. Thank you for the support and prayers and the wisdom. I mean, I'm hearing so much wisdom. Travis says, Justin, Jamie, I love you both so much. Even in this kind of horrendous and unfair terrain, with your powers combined, you two can navigate it gracefully and with love. I mean, you all are playing at such a high level here. I'm so proud to know you. I will be praying every day for you. We love you, Jamie. Stay strong and focus on what matters. You are a great team, and all our love and prayers are with you always. Now, this, I didn't even clock this. But what on earth is this? Breastplates of righteousness, sword of the spirit, loins, something with truth, shield of faith, feet, gospel of peace, helmet of salvation, armor of God. I think it's a quote from the Bible, but I don't know what testament that is. And just by the way, disclaimer, I was brought up in church and I feel fully okay the way I feel about this. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armour of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So, yeah, that is that. Let's get rid of that right now. I'm on boring, yeah. That was kind of weird. Hello, concerned Kitterson. I can see the comments today. I don't know what happened yesterday. Lovely to see you. Right, let's get back to this. But yeah, I didn't see anything about him feeling scared. I didn't get that vibe. Like yesterday, people were commenting about the use of the therapeutic language and the way it was kind of being weaponized. And it just seems very evident. That, and ironic that he's accusing his perceived enemy as playing the victim when that is literally what he is doing. But the thing I notice is the combat is coming all from his side in the language. So I think this is where they were asking about the unfollowing, because this was a really big deal to him, which is crazy, because who cares? You know what? Sometimes people can unfollow you. It can be a mistake, or it can be like Instagram playing games. Like, to go this deep about someone unfollowing you. Did you ask her why? Objection. I think it was very clear that when a person publicly unfollows you and also through channels tells you they don't want you at the premiere or they won't attend, I think I took the hint that I shouldn't reach out to anybody and ask. Gottlieb, but you didn't reach out and ask, right? I did not believe that anything that I had to say could compete with any influence that Miss Lively had. Even though, in your view, all of this was based on lies. Objection. See, this is where he really falls apart with his argument, and I love it. I'm so here for this. When you're dealing with arguably the most powerful couple in Hollywood, with the most powerful friends in the world, mixed with someone who's extremely charming and personable and has so much to offer someone as young as her, by that point, there was nothing, I believe, I could have said to her that could affect any so I guess they're talking about Isabella. But then, does he even know for sure that she was following him? Because I don't follow everyone I meet at work. That is a possibility. Gottlieb said, do you think your conduct on the set of It Ends With Us had anything to do with the decisions made by cast members other than Miss Lively to not want to follow you and not appear alongside you at the premiere? Objection! Justin says, I am unsure if... Can you repeat the question? This is not working for me. The stenographer reporter reads back, do you think your conduct on the set of It Ends With Us had anything to do with the decisions made by the cast members other than Miss Lively not wanting to follow you and not appearing alongside you at the premiere? I can't speculate and answer that question. Well, you can't speculate and answer that question, but you've ruined your whole life over it. Mr. Gottlieb, you don't know what their motivations were. I think it's impossible to know what anybody's motivation is. And you didn't ask what their motivations were? I did not ask what anyone's motivations were. And notwithstanding that you were very concerned and very afraid, you did not initiate an investigation at this point in time to clear your name. Objection. I did not initiate an investigation at that time. Instead, you retained the agency group, right? Objection. I would not classify it as that. And you commissioned the scenario planning document to get ahead of what you thought might be coming. Objection. Right, another little thing I wanted to bring up for 1 second. See if my presentation works. We are going to add oh, what's that? Wait. Oh, yeah, there it is. Because it's so cute. So this was, it's so cute, come on. How cute is that? This was a text message from Jamie Heath on the 10th of November 2023 to Jennifer Abel and Stephanie Jones. And that was the day when Blake Lively had originally sent over that list of conditions, return to work conditions, in a message from her lawyer. And he immediately, as you can see in this message, says, and it begins again. Jennifer says, hey, Steph, and I can call you and loop in Jamie. Steph says, I can't Zoom, but can do, oh, sorry, Jamie, who's blue? Oh yeah, Jamie, sorry. He said at the start, hey, sorry for last minute text. Need you both for Zoom if you can shortly. And then Stephanie says, I can't Zoom, but can do conference call. Please don't use Zoom for any confidential conversations, as there are lots of breaches there with program. So when he says, and it begins ... again ... that kind of makes you feel like he's already spoken to her about these potential issues. And the only reason why I'm showing you this is because, as per the deposition questioning, he's being asked if he retains tag PR. Well, at the first sign of this list, he got straight onto a Zoom call with his PR. And she says, please don't use Zoom for any confidential conversations. There are lots of breaches there with program. And he says, oh, wow, I didn't know that. This is the CEO of a Hollywood production company. So it's not really surprising that she sends him that emoji. And then he says, if I text you something now, will it only go to you and not any assistants? And Jennifer says, text me and Steph directly. Don't email the alias that has full team. It's like he really doesn't understand technology. And then that's him sending a copy of the letter from Blake Lively's lawyer. So yeah, that's that. That's that. Now we go back to the deposition. What I'm trying to say is it seems like they had something like this in mind in November of 2023, and that was a good 7, 8 months before them hiring Tag or the agency group. So, just to recap, and notwithstanding that you were very concerned and very afraid, you did not initiate an investigation at this point, because exactly, where was your group telling you, have you followed procedure? It's all right, just do the investigation, you'll be found in the clear because you're a Baha'i bro and you have God on your side or something along those lines. But no, not one of them said anything to that effect. Objection. I did not initiate an investigation at that time. Instead, you retained the agency group, right? Objection. I would not classify it as that. And you commissioned the scenario planning document to get ahead of what you thought might be coming. Objection. Justin says, I just want to go back. I did not use the word instead of investigating. I just want to say that's not it. I disagree. Oh, okay. I have this receipt as well. Like every other production, correct? Did you want reporters to know that? I was not hiding that. Is being called a scab a positive or a negative implication in your view? I'm not sure I can answer that. But you wanted reporters to go in that direction, right? Objection! What I believe I was doing was passing on a message from my partner, Steve, who relayed to me after reading a story that appeared to be in response from something Ms. Lively said on her own. She was not even asked about whether or not her husband wrote a scene, and then, because of that, received a lot of negative backlash, as did Mr. Reynolds. Because why would Mr. Reynolds be a WGA writer writing a scene in someone's movie that he's not credited for? And so Steve, seeing Mr. Reynolds' apparent leak that the script was a disaster, which seemed like he was trying to save his own image in that moment, wait, what? And so Steve, seeing Mr. Reynolds' apparent leak that the script was a disaster, which seemed like he was trying to save his own image in that moment. The level of projection this guy has is insane. Asked me to pass on to Melissa and Jen that an idea could be presented which would be flipping this narrative that our movie was a disaster to begin with. What the F? I just want to say as well, it's like the idea that these people were a threat to him, he undermined them at every encounter he had from the get-go. He undermined them. He went round there and discussed something super inappropriate at the first meeting and then did it again at the second meeting. And then when he was like given a quiet word about it and even had like a conversation with one of their friends who is in a much more like, I don't like the word successful, but someone who could have helped him maybe. I'm just thinking that that was maybe the reason why they thought, why don't you have a chat with our friend and see if he can like help you to feel a bit more secure? But you turn these people into enemies and undermine your own position when this is purely me being very like objective about it, because I have no allegiance to either side. Honestly, I do not. In fact, the first video I ever made about this, I showed a clip of Ryan Reynolds and his cocktail thing called a vasectomy. And I just thought, what is this? Because it's really cheesy and cringe. But at the same time, Justin, you're in the movie business and these people are at the top of their game and you've made a movie with them. And like you were just saying, you have all of this money invested in this project. It's your biggest project to date. So why on earth would you not use these people as an asset? I just don't get it. Anyway, what I wanted to do was bring up, for 1 second, what is scary that some of these texts were absolutely written in the event. They're discoverable and lit. I guess he thought he could pick and choose which of those he thought that other people would have the same digital hygiene. You can tell how careless he is because he acts like Steve Sarowitz. Money is his money. Yeah, I think you could be right there. The picking and choosing of the messages, I mean, yeah, they did not do a good job. But I do believe that all this not coercive filming, undercover filming, I can't remember. The unsolicited filming of people, I definitely think he was storing all that to use against people. It really, really looks like it. Vindictive, yeah. Oh, I love all these comments. He's contemptuous of her, absolutely. It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. Like, and that is the message. When you think about it, that was the message they were getting from the people at Sony and the other producers. They were like, okay, you're not getting along, that's fine, but we have a movie here. We need you to play ball and get on with it. Like, you're messing this up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show the receipts. Boom. So this is from Justin, Melissa, and she says, so sorry, JB. I love how she has to tell everyone, she calls everyone by their initials. So sorry, JB. I'm on a closed set. I'm free later when we finish, though. Justin says, no worries. Quickly, my partner Steve, why does it keep doing that? My partner Steve asked about flipping the narrative from this leak this morning about Ryan saying script was a disaster and he saved the movie. We need to get up the quote because I bet he did say that anyway. And like, oh, I can't even get into it. So she says, so actually it's working on our favor. Ryan Reynolds looks like looks the worst and continues to play into that narrative of them being awful. I mean, are we thinking that maybe it was her team that highlighted the interview where he said this thing? And that's why Justin even knows about it? No, he's not thinking that, is he? But and I like how she interrupts him as well. He's like, to something about Ryan claiming the female hired was feminist writer, didn't know how to tackle a female film, etc., using their own words against them. This is an easy flip. And then Melissa Nathan says, but Tatiana Siegel from Variety wants to do a follow-up call with us for a story similar. We've a call into her later. So, yeah, we already saw, well, I already showed or I already read out her message with Tatiana, who didn't think the scab story didn't think their readers would be interested in the scab story, because who cares about workers' rights, right? Am I on? What's that one? Is it that one? I've forgotten which one I was reading out now. I think it's that one. No, it's not. It's that one. Okay. So that was the actual message. And this is the deposition. And this, again, was a purely defensive conversation. There was an offensive move done to say that our script was originally a disaster. And we were implying that this could happen. We did not say, go do it. I don't, unless you have something where I did. So, Justin, where were they going to get that idea from then if you didn't send it to them? It was going to be made up? Do you characterize these as offensive and defensive, yet you have admitted that you have absolutely no idea whether Mr. Reynolds ever said that the movie was a disaster that he saved. Objection! Untrue. I do know he said it. You know that he said that the movie was a disaster that he saved? Yes. Okay, and how you know that? He said it at the January 4th meeting in person to my face. Oh. What the F? And did he say that in public any time that you ever heard him say that? I found it odd that something he said to oh, cliffhanger. Wow. So that's crazy. That is really crazy. Bless you. I wish they would call these exhibits that they use receipt number 1, receipt number 2. It just be such a clever. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm I have a whole filing cabinet for this stuff because, you know, sometimes these things come out. Some of these things came out back in August, you know. So I need to know where I can find them at quick notice if I want to sound like I'm making sense, which I know to some people I am making sense. I know someone in the comments said I sounded like I was drunk, which which is kind of mad, considering I don't really drink. And also I'm just a happy person that is happy to be giving people that want to know factual information out, because that is all I am doing. I am just reading out facts and I'm showing you depositions, and there's very few places you can find this unless you go to the docket, which probably about, when did I first find out about what a docket was? I'm going to say it must have been about a year and a half or so ago, but some people still wouldn't know to do that. So we are going to now move into Alex Sachs and her depositions. So Alex Sachs was or is, I should say, a producer. And she's not just a producer, she's a very successful producer. And she also has experience in exactly this kind of production. Books to film and independent films. And I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's like 56 minutes. But there's actually quite a few interviews with her on YouTube, and she had a TikTok account as well. But I think she's not been doing her TikToks anymore, which I bet, if I had to make a bet, I would say it's probably because of the attention that this whole thing has unfortunately brought to her. But she did say she's gonna go back to it, and she's also not she's not asked for her deposition to be sealed, which I feel shows a sign of real maturity. She's kind of like facing this head on, and I believe she's a very strong woman. She might not be to everybody's taste. I totally get that. Like, she does have a very strong accent, but we should put that to the side and just look at who she is and what she's doing in this industry, because it's very much to be admired, in my opinion, given that this movie was meant to be about female empowerment.
I'm a film producer. I have produced movies like The Florida Project and the recent Jennifer Lawrence comedy No Hard Feelings. I have a movie in post right now called It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively, based on Colleen Hoover's book. I come from the world of film and only film. Since I graduated from college, I started off as an assistant to a high-level studio producer in film and TV, and then I sort of migrated to the independent film side and worked for a young indie producer who had spent time before he was producing as a finance agent at CAA. And that was how I myself migrated into the world of finance and packaging at one of the major agencies. I was an agent at ICM Partners for 4 years. And that brought me to what I've been doing since for about 7 or 8 years, which is creative producing lots of different movies.
Now, for those of us that don't know, could you brief?
Okay, so I'm just going to fast forward to this bit, which I think is where she starts talking about working on a book, which I think is very relevant.
A lot of your previous work is based on books. Could you walk us through the process of obtaining the film rights to a book?
Okay, so in terms of obtaining IP as a producer and filmmaker, there's a few different ways that it can work, and there's a few different ways I've done a handful of book to film adaptations. Some of them I have been involved at from the very early obtaining of the option of a book or an article. Others, movies like Chemical Hearts, movies like Wildlife, another party, whether it was the writer or director, him or herself, or another company, obtained those rights first. And I was brought on secondarily when there was more of an idea or a script already in place. And then I do guide that process. Chemical Hearts, we ended up selling to Amazon. They took over that option purchase, but I was not there when someone read the book and said, oh, I think this could be a movie. One of the films that I did where I was there from the inception was for a movie called The Glorias, which was a biopic on Gloria Steinem that Julie Taymor co-wrote with a playwright named Sarah Rule and directed. It came out in the fall of 2020 amidst COVID, so it was sort of dropped on Amazon and frankly didn't really live the life that we had hoped for it. But in terms of optioning that material initially, the way that happened was Julie Taymor's agent at WME at the time had basically asked me if I was a fan of the book, which had already come out, Gloria Steinem's My Life on the Road, which is sort of her memoir about how she grew up as a bit of a nomad and has continued to be one for.
So if you don't know Gloria Steinem, because I found this out from doing my research into Playboy, she was the journalist that went undercover at the Playboy Club, and she found out that because they were advertising it as like an opportunity for women to earn really good money, to be independent, to live this glamorous lifestyle. So she went undercover as an employee, and she found out that a lot of the money was a lot of their earnings had to be used to go towards their kind of image maintenance. So they had to pay for like eyelashes and their costumes. And so they didn't get nearly as much money as what was advertised. And obviously we know that a lot of assaults went on within that organization, but they had extremely strict rules for the girls. And speaking of the fat shaming thing and the weight thing, I mean, I think these girls had to get like measured at meetings and stuff like that. Like that's how dark it was. But yeah, so she did an expose story as a feminist journalist. So I just thought that was really relevant, given Justin's stance on supporting and wanting to promote female empowerment and wanting to change lives.
The majority of her life, sort of following in the footsteps of her father. And I was asked, would you be interested in this book? And ironically, I actually had the book on my nightstand. It was like my next read. So of course, look, I was a huge fan of Gloria's and Julie Taymor. So when the agent asked the question, I was like, yeah, duh. And so luckily my company at the time had financing. And so what we did was I read the book, obviously, and it, confirmed what I thought it would, which was that I loved it and I loved the story. And I went to meet with Julie and I heard her take on what the adaptation could be and what she would want the film to be. And so we, having cash and financing at the time, made an offer to option the rights to Gloria's book agent. And luckily, and this is not always the case, it was a very friendly, easy negotiation because Gloria trusted Julie. We were coming arm in arm with Julie. So it was kind of already a done deal. Sometimes these things can get really complicated and they can be really competitive. And not only does that drive the price up of the material, which can be great for the writer, but it can also become a burden on the production and ultimately the movie ever getting made. When someone buys a book in a competitive auction for $4 million, that goes to the budget, and that's quite a chunk just for the underlying rights. The underlying rights should usually be about 2.5% of a total budget. So extrapolate that out and your budget would be pretty big. Otherwise, it's a little off, and then unfortunately you're just having to make the movie for a lesser production budget, which is probably not going to serve everyone. So anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying it can unfold in a million different ways, but it always has to do with identifying the material, going to the representative, and starting a negotiation. And expressing the creative comes into it too. Some authors are more interested than others in terms of like, I don't care, just get me as much money as I can get, or I want to understand the creative vision. I want this to be something that complements the book and the vision of the book that I wrote. Whereas, like I said, others don't care. And they'll just take the check, which good for them.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that she's worked on Harry Potter, because I don't know why they would show that. But I thought, that's interesting, because J.K. Rowling, because of J.K. Rowling, the whole Johnny Depp thing started up. But I mean, obviously it's not because of her, it's because of dickhead Dan Wood. But he wanted to have a pop at J.K. Rowling. So yeah, I mean, the thing about Alex Sachs is, and I hope this is interesting because I found it really interesting. I didn't know anything about this. But it's just in context, when you think about Justin and the chaotic language that's been spewing out of his mouth, and the chaos, the chaotic way they seem to be organising their company, yet somehow believing that they're making a difference in Hollywood. Her level of professionalism and her experience in financing, because that's all she talks about. She was a finance agent, and she learned through working for other people in that job, and so now she's an independent on her own, and she completely understands financing. She talks about how you present things as a package and how there's different levels, and how who you bring on as the director or the actress or the cast is how you move forward in terms of offering a package and finance and all of that side of it. So the one other bit of the interview that I was going to play was when she talks about this thing called bonds, which again I had never heard of, but it seems to be like some kind of financial bond insurance that, anyway, she's going to explain it.
European sort of style filmmakers, and they'd rather get the money from there because the whole approach to filmmaking is so different. So for example, if you have a story or a project that it takes place in Thailand, it might make sense to make it a co-pro and get a Taiwanese sales agent involved or distributor and really do something that is outside the box, not what people like I am normally doing, but it is a way to get your movies made. And I think when you're outside the core industry, you have to be creative like that. It's just a necessity.
No, that's great. Thank you. Now, could you also tell us about your experience with bond companies? Are they prevalent? Are they necessary?
So I've worked with bond companies many times before. I've also not worked with them many times. So it's sort of a healthy balance. Bond companies exist as completion guarantors for financiers. They are basically an extra insurance policy that they come in and oversee the execution of a project as soon as the first dollar is being sent. So they have to come on board before that when you're putting all the pieces together, because they will monitor on behalf of a financier every single step, especially the spending of any money on a film. They will need to approve and oversee the hiring of all department heads, all department budgets, obviously the final budget of the movie, and making sure that it aligns with the script and the schedule that you're presenting. They are, like I said, they are an additional insurance and completion guarantor. They're paid a percentage of the budget to render these services, and they guarantee, as a result, that the movie will be delivered to the financier on or before a certain date. And the reason why they exist, there's a few different reasons. A, it's a neutral party that can exist in between the financier and the creatives. They can be the bad guy when the financier doesn't want to. The other piece is that a lot of financiers don't really know how movies get made. They don't understand the mechanics of it. They're a high net worth individual. Sometimes these companies learn, and
I was wondering if she was talking about Steve Sarowitz.
And grow, and then they realize the bond company is not necessary because they can oversee it. But whenever I have a new investor, especially if I'm not producing it, I always advise having a bond company on, because even sometimes when you have a bond company on, things can go awry, but they really shouldn't. That's why they're there. They are there to go to the production office once or twice in prep, meet with all the department heads, look at the budget, and be able to call the financier after and say, you're in good hands, things are going well. But also they go back to their boss and say, we're okay. I don't think this is going to be a runaway train. Because what happens is the deal that they do, they get paid a fee. They are on the hook for any overages or money that is being spent. Like they become the responsible party so that the financier remains protected. That's why they're getting paid a fee. Now, for someone who is as experienced as I am now, I like a lot of the bond company reps because they've become friends, but it's a lot of legwork and a lot of hand-holding and just extra conversations and phone calls and meetings that, like, if I cannot do, it just takes a lot of work off of my plate, honestly. And because I tend to bring movies in under budget or on budget, and I have a reputation for making films well for the most part, I'm able to get away sometimes without having a bond company rep with certain investors. If you are using a lender, usually of any kind, they almost always require a bond company. A bank like Co-America will not write you a check for your foreign pre-sales unless FFI or media guarantors is bonding the film. So it can honestly feel like a big babysitter is hanging around watching your every move. But if you can remove the ego piece of it, they can be, some of the reps, an incredible resource to you as you're making a movie. I've had movies where I've had to replace the first AD in the middle of shooting or the line producer in the middle of shooting. And whether the bond company is on the movie or not, those are the people that I call for recommendations about good line producers and good accountants and good ADs who can run a set and can have impressed a bond company before, which is not the easiest thing to do. And so there's a lot of expertise and value that they bring if you're willing to use it and not just look at them as the annoyance that most people think they are. But they serve a real purpose for inexperienced companies and investors. And in the independent space, they're a critical part of the output of all of these films, et cetera. So it's good to get to know how to work with them and use them.
Could you also talk about?
Yeah. So I just thought it was really interesting. Especially when she said about she's had to find a new AD in the middle of a production, because we know that is very, very relevant. I don't know whether she was talking about It Ends With Us, but yeah, obviously they had to fire the first AD while she was the producer. So we're going to get to our final presentation for tonight. Are we good? That was super interesting. Oh, thank you. I thought it was interesting, honestly. Like, I get some people might find her like she's very corporate. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you know, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like that is the movie industry from where I'm sitting. It's so corporate. People want to sort of believe it's all about art and I don't know, escapism, but I'm like, is it really, when you've got like finance bonds is really what it's about? Product placement. She talked a little bit about product placement. What she did talk about, and this is again why I thought it was interesting to show her as a person. I believe she's really pro-women. She really makes feminist, pro-women films in an extremely, as we know, misogynistic and male-dominated space. She spoke about, I think it was that film that she was talking about, the Gloria Steinem movie during COVID, and how a lot of the actresses were getting on in age. So she really had to make sure they had a COVID safe set to protect these women's health. You know, this is not some idiot they have here. And I just find it really interesting that Justin, in my experience of reading her deposition, which we're about to look at, obviously couldn't handle her, instead of seeing her as like the amazing person that at her job that she clearly is. She has an amazing record and history, and I hope that she can carry on despite what has gone on here. Was it not bonded? That is a really good question, and I was literally wondering the same thing, because I'm like, the fact that she said because she was there, they don't need to do that because she has such a good reputation, I feel like that's really relevant. And I haven't heard Justin. You hear Justin when he's talking as well. Like, does he talk about any of this? He acts like money doesn't come into it, when it obviously does, but just not in the way that he describes. It's like he doesn't seem to understand how budgets work, how every second of film that he's shooting is costing money. Anyway, let's get to this deposition. So, as you can see, video recorded deposition of Alexandria Sachs, Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. So she says, the attorney asks, were you employed? A company called June Pictures that I co-owned. Were you employed at June Pictures as a producer? Yes. How are you generally compensated as a producer? Not the amount, but what your compensation is comprised of. For example, salary, bonus, royalties. As a producer now, on my fees on individual movies. What do you mean by on my fees on individual movies? I'm compensated by fees from whoever is financing the movie. And for each film, are you compensated a set amount that is decided up front, or is that an amount that could vary based on the success of the film? Both. See, that's another thing that I've not seen discussed, is these people's salaries are not straightforward. They're not straightforward. A lot of them are dependent on so many different factors, and they're equity related. So they have to wait maybe a year or two to get their payout. You were a producer on It Ends With Us, correct? Correct. How did you come to be a producer on we've missed the page. How often were you on the set in New Jersey? Every day. You were present for every day of filming. I think there is one that I missed because I had the premiere of No Hard Feelings, and then the last 2 days of shooting on the second round in January of 2024, I had already jumped onto another movie, so I didn't come back to Los Angeles. So she's busy. She is booked and busy. Do you recall which day or days you missed for the premiere of No Hard Feelings? I don't remember the work we did that day. As a producer, did you report into Wayfarer? Yes. Did you report to Mr. Baldoni as the director? Yes. And did you also report to Mr. Heath as the CEO and co-studio head? Yes. They were your bosses? Yes. You mentioned Ange Giannetti earlier. Who is she? She was the EVP at Sony who was our day-to-day creative. How often do you recall Miss Giannetti being on set? In the first round, she was there for a few days, from what I remember. Maybe more than that. Definitely more than a normal executive is, in my experience. And then on the second round, she was there most days. When you say that Ms. Giannetti was on set a few days in the first round, would it be fair to estimate 2 to 4 days? That sounds right. As a producer of, it sounds like a decade. Is it important to you that cast and crew working on your projects have an outlet through which to report concerns about behaviour in the workplace? Yes. It's required practice on film sets that cast and crew members have a place to report concerns, right? Objection! But it's Garofalo today. No. Did you understand whether HR would be available on set to cast and crew of the film? Eventually. When did you become aware? At some point in early prep, when we were starting to crew up and hire people. Is it your understanding that Wayfarer does have a human resources department? I don't know. Do you know, was there a designated individual who would perform human resources functions on the film? I believe it was a number or an email that people contacted, and then, if I remember correctly, there was a third party, but I don't believe Wayfarer had official human resources. It's funny. It's funny that she says that, but they seem to be of a different opinion. Is it your recollection that there was a third party to provide human resources functions to cast and crew on set? I don't remember. Do you have any memory of who that third party may have been? I don't. As someone who was on set every day, did you know who you could speak to if you had concerns about behaviour on set? Yeah. Who? Jamie. Your understanding as a producer on the film was that if you had concerns about behaviour on set, you should raise them to Mr. Heath? Yeah. As the copyright owner, signer of checks and agreements, and without there being an official, one HR person, it was really just easiest to go to him as the boss. As a producer on set, did you understand who you could raise concerns to about behaviour if the person you were concerned about was Mr. Heath? Still Mr. Heath. So was your understanding that if you had concerns about Mr. Heath's behaviour, you would have to raise those to him? Correct. I'm going to hand you what will be marked as Exhibits 1 and 2. We are marking as Sachs Exhibit 1, Sachs Exhibit 2. Ms. Russer. Perfect. Ms. Garofalo. Is it Garofalo? Garofalo. Is this 1 or 2? Ms. Climaco. I gave you 2 copies with both exhibits. Ms. Rosa. The first document I handed you is marked as Exhibit 1. It's an email dated March 12th, 2023, and it bears the bait stamp, which is the number on the corner of AS62. Do you see that? This is an email that you sent, correct? Yes. To Jamie Heath, among others. Yes. The second document I sent you is marked in Exhibit 2. It is an email dated March 13th, 2023. Do you see that? Yes. This is also an email that you sent, correct? Correct. Please direct your attention to Exhibit 1. As of March 12, 2023, when you sent this email, did you know whether Wayfarer had workplace harassment protocols in place? It looks like I didn't. And at that time, you proposed that because of Justin's role, the harassment protocols come from Sony. Is that right? Correct. What did you mean when you wrote, as read, because of Justin's role at Wayfarer, our workplace harassment protocols should come from Sony? I assume I meant because he was the director, co-lead actor, and co-owned the studio. Were you concerned that as co-lead actor, director, and co-owner of the studio, people may not feel comfortable raising concerns to Mr. Baldoni? Correct. Did you have any other concerns with respect to Wayfarer overseeing the human resources or harassment protocols on set? Because Wayfarer, listen to this bit, it had become clear that they were a less experienced studio. The idea of Sony being responsible for something so important made me feel more secure. All cast and crew reported to Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath on set, correct? Yes. They were everyone's boss. Yes, and me as well. But again, Mr. Heath, as the signer of checks, technical copyright holder, CEO of the owner of the film, technically was the boss. When I refer to cast and crew, will you understand that I'm referring to the actor, basically anyone who worked on set? Yes. Did you also have concerns about Wayfarer overseeing the human resources function for the film, given Mr. Heath's role is CEO? Less so, aside from his lesser experience. You proposed that Sony provide a harassment training, and for cast and crew. Is that right? So she's already mentioned twice that they're inexperienced. Correct. Turn your attention to Exhibit 2, please. Are you confirming in this email that Mr. Heath agreed with are you confirming in this email that Mr. Heath agreed with you that Sony should provide Oh my God. What did I do? I've lost my place. Mr. Heath agreed with you that Sony should provide. Yes. Do you recognize this document as... Can we wait until everybody has a copy of the exhibit? Ms. Sachs, do you recognize this email? Vaguely. This is an email from Mr. Baldoni to you dated February 19th, 2023, correct? Yes. If you direct your attention to the second paragraph, it reads, I want to apologize to the group, especially to Alex. Do you see that? Yes. What did you understand Mr. Baldoni to be apologizing to you for? I believe the day before, we were on a call or a Zoom where he yelled at me. Mr. Baldoni yelled at you? I believe so. When you say he yelled at you, did he raise his voice? I believe so. Do you recall who else was on the Zoom? I believe everyone on the email chain, and it may have been a call. Ms. Giannetti, Mr. Caloff, AJ Marbury, yourself, and Mr. Baldoni were in the meeting. Who was AJ Marbury? I don't know that AJ was. Oh, that's his assistant. But Ange, Jamie, and Caloff probably were, along with Justin. I thought his assistant was called Will. How many assistants has he got? Mr. I'm going to bitch at Blake Lively and how many assistants she has. What do you recall about this meeting in February of 2023 in which Mr. Baldoni yelled at you on a Zoom meeting? On a Zoom call, sorry. I don't remember much, but reading the email, I believe he was talking about his own abuse. Oh. Yeah, when I tried to voice an opinion, he yelled at me, but I don't remember exactly what the words were. Maybe it was something along the lines of, is this the right time for you to be sharing this story? Do you recall the gist of what he yelled at you? I don't. Do you recall what opinion you were voicing at the time? I don't. In the second paragraph, Mr. Baldoni writes, I feel I have failed at being a safe place for others, so I want to apologize as my behavior yesterday for me was not acceptable. I try very hard not to interrupt the women in my life, and unfortunately, I've been failing in that on quite a few occasions over the last few months, oftentimes and yesterday in particular, to you. Do you see that? Yes. Do you agree with Mr. Baldoni that he had failed at being a safe place for others? I have no idea. Did you feel that he had failed at being a safe space for you? I didn't need him to be a safe space for me. I love her. I love her. I don't love her, but it's so refreshing to hear someone speak sensibly and authentically, because I do feel like she's being professional and authentic. And honestly, in all of these messages that I've been reading, none of the others have. Did you agree with Mr. Baldoni that he had failed at being a safe place for others? I have no idea. Did you feel that he had failed at being a safe space for you? I didn't need him to be a safe space for me. Did you agree with Mr. Baldoni that his behaviour and yelling at you during the February 23 meeting was not acceptable? Yes. Why? I don't yell at work colleagues, nor do I like being yelled at. You think it's inappropriate to yell at your colleagues? Personally, do you recall during this February 2023 call, Mr. Baldoni interrupting you? I don't recall. Was it your experience on the set that Mr. Baldoni would often interrupt you when you were speaking? Did you say on the set? In connection with the film? Oh, yes. Mr. Baldoni often interrupted you while you were speaking. Sometimes. Did you observe Mr. Baldoni interrupt other women in connection with the film? I can't recall. Towards the end of that paragraph, Mr. Baldoni writes, the other times that I recall were usually in group meetings where other women were present, but I never saw him directly mansplain to one woman or a group of women. It was more a big conversation with a group in a production meeting or something. Did you observe mansplain? I can't believe she used the word mansplain. That is literally what he does. Did you observe Mr. Baldoni yell at anyone else in connection with the film other than you? Not that I can recall. Interesting. Did Mr. Baldoni yell at you more than once in connection with the film? Yes. How many times would you estimate that Mr. Baldoni yelled at you? I believe it was 3. Would that be the 2 times in addition to this February 2023 meeting? I believe so. What are the other 2 incidents that you recall Mr. Baldoni yelling at you? One other was also on, as I believe, the other time was on a Zoom. It was a notes Zoom. I don't remember the details beyond that. And then on a follow-up Zoom, he apologized to me in front of the entire group for doing so on the previous Zoom. So on the, you mentioned a note Zoom. What is that? Where we would get on a Zoom and have a meeting about the latest draft and talk about whatever creative notes we all had. So during a meeting to discuss notes of the draft, on the draft of the script, Mr. Baldoni yelled at you. Yes. Do you recall what he yelled at you? I don't. Do you recall the topic that was being discussed at the time that he yelled at you? I don't. Do you recall who else was present during the Zoom when he yelled at you on the Zoom with respect to discussing notes about the current draft of the script? I believe Ange, Jamie, and probably Calof. Is that Andrew Calof? Yes. Roughly when do you recall the Zoom, the notes Zoom occurring during which Mr. Baldoni yelled at you? I believe it was in January of 2023. Do you recall the general topic of discussion during that Zoom? Just the script. Do you recall Mr. Baldoni also mansplaining to you during that note Zoom in January 2023? Objection! I don't recall. Do you recall whether he interrupted you during that notes Zoom in January of 2023? I mean, this is going back to the literal beginning, because he went to visit Blake in December 22nd. And yeah, like, this is less than a month later. So, and I'm not sure if I played it during the video, but she was explaining how, I think I did play it, how she was explaining how this is literally her area of expertise, developing scripts and packages. So I just find it really interesting that he's already yelling at her. Do you recall whether he interrupted you during that note Zoom in January of 2023? I don't recall. You mentioned that there was a third incident in which Mr. Baldoni yelled at you. Is that right? Yes. And when was that roughly? That was on set towards the end of the first round of shooting. Would that have been roughly June 2023? I believe so. What do you recall about the meeting on set with Mr. Baldoni in which he yelled at you? We were shooting at the route location. It was a very stressful day of shooting because we had a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. He came up behind monitor where I was sitting. Jamie and Ange were behind me, and he came up to me and asked me how I thought the scene was going and if he was getting it, which I thought he did, and also expressed that I didn't believe that he needed more coverage. And then he yelled at me and said that, I don't remember exactly, but something to the effect of, I actually don't remember exactly what he said, but he yelled something and then slammed his hands on the director's chair next to me and walked away. And then I turned around and looked at Amy, Ange and Jamie and said that if he did that, something like that to me one more time, that I was going to walk off the movie. And she just seems to me like someone who has a very high threshold for tolerance of, as she talked about, egos and stuff. That's obviously a big part of her job. Why did you feel like you would walk off the movie if he behaved in that manner again? It was the first time I felt physically intimidated. Why did you feel physically intimidated? During that interaction with Mr. Baldoni? Because he slammed his hands on a chair right next to me while yelling at me and saying my name. That's the one thing I remember, is he said, Alex. He yelled, Alex, and then slammed his hands on the chair. Sorry, that was a question. He yelled, Alex, and then slammed his hands on the chair? Yes. Can you describe for me where you were when that happened? I know you mentioned that you were filming a route scene. What did that look like? We were in a restaurant, and the front of the restaurant is where we were filming. And then there was sort of a divider in the restaurant, and Village was behind the divider towards the back of the restaurant. And that's where I was sitting in one of the first chairs closest to the monitor at Village. So you were sitting at the village. Was anyone who was around you? Was anyone who was around you? Ange and Jamie were sitting in 2 chairs behind me. Was anyone else there? There was probably lots of crew milling around, but no one I can remember specifically. The crew would have been milling around the village and also the area where the actual filming was taking place in the front of the restaurant. Correct. But also bringing either equipment or props back and forth from the back entrance up to the front where the shooting was happening. Did you say that what prompted Mr. Baldoni to yell your name and slam his hands down on a chair was that you gave him a note that you didn't think he needed more coverage of the scene? Yeah. I said I didn't think he needed more coverage of the scene. And I think he wanted to shoot more coverage of the scene. What? What do you mean when you say coverage of the scene? Coverage of a scene is shooting a scene from various different angles. So your impression was that Mr. Baldoni wanted to shoot the scene from more angles, correct? And you didn't think that was necessary? Correct. And simply noting to him that you didn't think he needed the scene from additional angles prompted Mr. Baldoni to yell and slam a chair. Objection! I was answering his question, so yes. You answered a question that he asked you, and he responded by yelling at you and slamming a chair on the ground. Slamming a chair on the ground? We've got slamming a chair on the ground now? Yes. And you were physically intimidated by that? Yes. Oh. Sorry to anyone if this is uncomfortable. Objection! I was answering his question, so yes. Oh, sorry, I read that. And you were physically intimidated by that? Yes. Were there any other physical movements that Mr. Baldoni was making? Was he getting big, for example, when he approaching you? Was he approaching you? Not that I can recall. Do you feel that was appropriate behavior for your boss? No. And Mr. Baldoni yelled at you and slammed the chair, it sounds like, in front of several other people. Is that right? Yes, in front of Miss Janetti, Mr. Heath, as well as multiple crew members. From what I remember. How many crew members could you estimate were around at the time? I have no idea. Would it be more than 10? I don't think so. Somewhere between 5 and 10, maybe. Could be under 5, could be more than 5. I really don't remember. Was Mr. Baldoni in the scene that prompted him to yell at you? Yes. Ooh. Was it your impression that he wanted more coverage of himself in the scene? Not necessarily. Did Mr. Baldoni ever explain to you why he yelled at you during that time? No. Did he apologize? I don't remember. Yes. Is that was at 11:55, she said, I don't remember, and then it skips to 12:04, and she says yes, so I don't know what that's for. Okay, so it either would have been Mr. Baldoni's behaviour and yelling at you, either would have occurred at the time of filming the scene in which his character meets Lily's mother, or the scene in which Mr. Baldoni's character gets in a fight with Atlas. Correct. Am I correct that production on the film was split into 2 phases? Yes. One before the Hollywood strikes and one after. That's correct. During roughly what time period did the first phase of production take place? May and June of 2023. And during that time frame, did the second phase of production during what time frame did the second phase of production take place, roughly? January into February of 2024. When I refer to production phase 1 or something similar, will you understand that I am referring to the time period of May, from May to June of 2023? Yes. During that phase of production, would you describe the set as well organized? I'm sorry, you said phase 1. Correct. No. Why not? Because it was not being well run and managed. The set was not being well run or managed during the first phase of production by Mr. Baldoni. I just wanted to pause for 1 second. When I was reading out the timeline that Justin, it seems now, very creatively started to put together, well, he, with his marketing person at Wayfarer, Mitz, they called that incident where he slammed a chair to the ground. Alex and him had their thing on the set. If that isn't the definition of diminishing a significant event, I don't know what is. Some people might say it was a lie or a cover-up. So, during the first phase of production, would you describe the set as well organized? I'm sorry, you said phase 1, correct? No. Why not? Because it was not being well run and managed. The set was not being well run or managed during the first phase of production by Mr. Baldoni. It wasn't just Mr. Baldoni. We started the shoot with a very weak first AD. Our production team was very tiny and overwhelmed, and then we had Wayfarer as the decision-making studio, who was also very green. Who was the very weak first AD mentioned? Julie Bloom. Why did you believe Ms. Bloom? Poor Julie. Sorry, Julie. I'm sorry you got dragged into this mess. Why did you believe Miss Bloom to be very weak? She had come from, more recently, the television world, which does not require ADs unless you're working on the pilot to really construct the framework for how a production is going to run. And so doing this film, from my memory, she had not done one in a while, and we were just not set up for success as an operation. How would you generally expect a first AD in a film set to, let me rephrase, what are your expectations for how a first AD on a film set performs? That they are hyper communicative, in constant communication with all departments, understanding the timeline of any given day, in addition to the prep work to get to that given day. They're also in lockstep with the director and the DP on what the shot list is for the entire day. They also should have a really acute understanding of the hair and makeup timings and how the actors are going to be operating on set in terms of needing rehearsal, not needing rehearsal, how long it takes for their hair, makeup, and costumes to be done. They are the clock of the day. In your view, did Ms. Bloom meet those expectations for how a first AD on a film set should perform? No, I think she tried very hard, but was not able to wrap her head around the entire machine. Did you recommend terminating Ms. Bloom as first AD on the film? I was not the first to recommend it, but ultimately, yes. And you supported terminating Ms. Bloom. I did, as the first AD. Sorry. One more time, there was crosstalk. That's okay. Were you supported terminating Ms. Bloom as the first AD on the film set, is that right? I did. What were your impressions, if any, of how Mr. Baldoni performed his responsibilities as a director during phase 1? I think he was deeply overwhelmed and, despite a long prep, very unprepared on a daily basis for a lot of reasons. Fair to say you did not find him to be an effective director during phase 1? Not necessarily. There's a lot of facets. Okay, we've got some more exhibits. Take a quick look at those, and exhibit 7 is marked attorney's eyes only. So I will just ask that Mr. Heath not be given a copy, and that when we ask questions that he leave the room. Wow. Miss Sachs, I will direct your attention to exhibit 6, please, which is a document Bates stamped SPEBL 2023. This appears to be a text chain between you and Miss Janetti, indicated as home, dated May 29th, 2023. Do you see that? Yes. And do you recognize this is a text chain between you and Miss Lively? Yes. Do you recall the brunch with Jenny? Is that Jenny Slate? Yes. Do you recall a brunch with Jenny Slate in May 29, 2023, or around that time? I do. And tell me about that brunch. Jenny and I had a meal prior to this one, so I went into thinking that it was a friendly brunch, which it was to a degree, but during it, she brought up some concerns that she was having on the movie, which was the first time I was hearing about them. What concerns did Miss Slate bring up during your brunch on or around May 29th? I don't remember exact language that was used, but there were a few. One was that in a scene, I believe the week prior, this was only the second week, Justin had commented on her physical appearance, which made her uncomfortable. That in an initial creative Zoom meeting between Justin, Blake, and Jenny and Blake only found out at the very end of the Zoom that Justin had been recording it the whole time. And that made both Blake and Jenny, from Jenny's point of view, feel very uncomfortable. I'm just trying to keep a count in my head of how many phone calls he's actually recorded compared to how many he said, because at one point he said 3. He said 2 to 4. Then he said 4, then he said 3, then he said 3. And this is only 3 that we've heard about. There was a mention of some kind of comments that Jamie had made to Jenny regarding how generous they had been with her housing allowance. Oh. There was a mention of some kind of comments that Jamie had made to Jenny regarding how generous they had been with her housing allowance, and that it was important for them to take care of new mothers, and that made her uncomfortable. And then there was a lot of other conversation, non-specific, but that she was uncomfortable in both of their presences and really would prefer to never see Jamie again, knowing that Justin was the director and co-star she would have to. Miss Slate said that she never wanted to see Mr. Heath again. Correct. And it's your impression that Ms. Slate knew that she would have to see Mr. Baldoni because he was the director and co-star. But perhaps she didn't want to see him either. I can't speak to that, but that was my assumption. You said a lot there, so I want to break it down a little, okay? Okay, you mentioned that Ms. Slate raised So you testified, Ms. Slate raised during your brunch in May that Mr. Baldoni had commented on her physical appearance, which made her uncomfortable, right? That Justin commented on her physical appearance, yes. And do you recall if Miss Slate told you whether that happened while a scene was being filmed, while they were on set, or at some other time? Objection! Did you mean Ms. Slater? Slate? I said Ms. Slate. I'm sorry, I thought you said Ms. Blake. I didn't hear you. Do you recall if Miss Slate told you where she was when Mr. Baldoni commented on her appearance? I don't remember which location it was, but it was on set in costume prior to filming. During a time when no scene was being filmed. We were not filming. Okay. Yet. Did Miss Slate tell you what the comment about her appearance was? It was, I don't recall if it was that he called her hot or sexy, and I don't recall if it was once or twice. The first time would have been in the flower shop when she was wearing an all-leather jumpsuit, and the second would have been in the karaoke scene. I don't remember what she was wearing that day, and I don't remember which comment was attributed to which. But you recall Ms. Slate informing you that Mr. Baldoni had called her hot and sexy. Or hot or sexy? Correct. Okay, and you don't recall the specific? I don't. You don't recall what she was wearing at the time? I don't. Did Miss Slate share with you during that brunch that she felt Mr. Baldoni's comment that she was hot or sexy was directed to her personally? I'm not sure I understand the question. Did Miss Slate share with you during brunch that she felt Mr. Baldoni commenting that she was hot or sexy was directed at her rather than her character? She didn't specify. Did you have an understanding one way or another? Objection! I didn't. Did Miss Slate also share with you that Mr. Baldoni had commented on Ms. Livy's appearance in a similar manner? She would not give me specifics about what Blake was experiencing, but I believe had encouraged Blake. Let me just repeat that. But I believe had encouraged Blake to speak to me directly and that I reach out to Blake. That sounded like Jenny prompted Blake. Big, scary, powerful Blake was encouraged by someone not nearly as famous as her to speak up, that she felt uncomfortable. I take this witness's testimony to be very credible. Did Miss Slate suggest to you that she had encouraged Blake to reach out to you about her own concerns with Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath? I believe she did. Do you recall how she suggested that? I don't. Do you recall Miss Slate suggesting somehow that Miss Lively had also had some uncomfortable experiences with Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath? Yes. And that was in the May 29th brunch you had with her, correct? You also mentioned that Miss Slate raised concerns about comments by Mr. Heath with regard to her housing situation. Is that right? Yes. What do you recall about Mr. Heath's comments regarding Ms. Slate's housing association? Sorry. Housing situation. All I remember, and I don't even know that I knew the details of what was happening at the time because production and Wayfarer were handling it vis-a-vis the contract. Those were the kinds of conversations that I wasn't a part of on this film, but it was something to the effect of, we gave you more than maybe we normally would have, because we prioritized women with families and children. Because they've missed out 2 minutes. Okay, so it's making a little bit more sense about this apartment thing, because I really didn't get it. It seems like they're making her feel like she kind of owes them. They're like stressing the point, like, we spent more on you than anyone else. Like, you got the best deal. You know, like, Kalof's our guy. You're our girl. The secret handshake. Are you aware that in some states it is illegal to record people without their consent? Objection. Objection form. Yes. And would you be okay with your boss recording a conversation with you without informing you in advance? Objection. No. I believe you testified that there were other non-specific conversations that Miss Slate raised she was uncomfortable with. Let me just make sure we heard that. She said she would not be okay with her boss recording a conversation without being informed. I think I just covered all of them. I don't remember any further specifics. If you'll look back to Exhibit 6, please, at 11:23 a.m., you sent a text to Miss Janetti that said, yes, very bad. I think we need to replace our director. And Jamie should not be on set. You just repeat that? Yes, very bad. I think we need to replace our director and Jamie should not be on set. Do you see that? I do. You felt that what Miss Slate had shared with you about Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni's behaviour was very bad. Yes. And did you think, because of what Miss Slate shared with you, that Justin should be replaced as director on the film? Yes. Why? Because his actors were uncomfortable in his presence. And in your view, it's important that actors be comfortable in their workplace. It's not just in her view, it's in their policy and procedures handbook. Why did you think Jamie should not be on set? Because I knew that I was more than capable of running the movie. They just weren't letting me. And so his presence was actually not needed. So if he was making someone so uncomfortable, I didn't see the reason for him to be there. I'm liking this woman more and more. And similar to Mr. Baldoni, did you believe that? Strike that. Did you believe that excluding Mr. Heath from set would make actors more comfortable in their workplace? For at least Jenny, yes. Was Mr. Heath excluded from set going forward? No. Why not? I don't know. Was Mr. Baldoni replaced as director on the film? No. Why not? I don't know. Other than Ms. Janetti, did you raise to anyone else the idea that Mr. Baldoni should be replaced as director on the film because his actors were not comfortable with him? No, Ange told me that there was no way that would ever happen. So you informed Ms. Janetti that actors were uncomfortable in their workplace due to Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni's behaviour. And her response was, "There's no way that would ever happen," or something to that effect. Yeah, that Sony's hands were tied, they had no control over the movie, and that Wayfarer would never replace them themselves. Other than Ms. Giannetti, did you raise to anyone that Mr. Heath should be excluded from set because actors were uncomfortable in his presence? Probably the line producer, Andrea, but otherwise no. Did you ever raise to Mr. Heath that Mr. Baldoni should be replaced because actors were uncomfortable with his presence on set? No. Why not? Because Justin was Jamie's boss. And did you ever raise to Justin that you felt he should be replaced as director and his actors weren't comfortable in his presence? No. Why not? Because he was my boss. Did you feel like you didn't have anyone else to raise these to? Correct. And just to be clear, you felt that there was no other avenue other than Ms. Giannetti to raise your concerns that actors were uncomfortable in the presence of Mr. Heath, the CEO of the studio, and Mr. Baldoni, the director of the film. Correct. Other than strongly encouraging Jamie and Justin to do an investigation, that was all. Did you raise to Mr. Baldoni that Mr. Heath should be removed from production? No, because Mr. Baldoni was your boss and Mr. Heath was his partner. And because Mr. Baldoni put Jamie on the movie as a producer after he had already hired me. Why did that impact your decision not to raise to Mr. Baldoni that Mr. Heath should be excluded from set due to the actor's discomfort with his presence? Because if Justin felt I could do the job on my own, he wouldn't have put Jamie on the movie in the first place. Things that make you go, She already said she was more than capable of doing it on her own. And I'd really like to know what exactly Jamie contributed in this production that was useful to this production. Other than being the go-between for Justin. I'm not even joking. That's literally his role. He's the Justin whisperer. Did you encourage Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath to conduct an investigation with regard to... Okay, and then they've jumped ahead. Okay, so after you had brunch with Jenny and she raised concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's behaviour, you had a Zoom with Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath to discuss Jenny's concerns, correct? Correct. And during that Zoom, did you share with them that Miss Slate had concerns with respect to Mr. Baldoni's comments about her appearance? Comments made by Mr. Heath and other items as well? Yes. How did they react? They actually took it very well in terms of they didn't at the time deny or get defensive about it. They just seemed to be taking it in, and that made it not as challenging as a conversation for me to be having with them, which I appreciated. When you suggested or recommended that an investigation be performed, how did Mr. Baldoni respond? He was very open to it. Do you recall what he said specifically? I don't remember the exact words, but something to the effects of, I'm happy to do it, you know. I should take responsibility for things I've done, that kind of language. During that Zoom call, following your brunch with Miss Slate, did you also raise that Miss Lively had certain concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's behaviour? No, because I didn't know that for sure yet. How did Mr. Heath react to your recommendation that an investigation into his and Mr. Baldoni's behaviour be conducted? He heard it and said that they needed to talk about it. That doesn't sound like Jamie, does it? I'm joking. Did you ever hear from Mr. Heath after that conversation about whether they were in fact going to conduct an investigation into his and Mr. Baldoni's conduct? This so contradicts what Justin said about it was never an official. We never knew there was an official. He said we never knew there was an official investigation or an official complaint, sorry. He also said he first heard about it from the New York Times article, which he didn't read. Not proactively, but we obviously talked about it again. Whether it was because I brought it up, I think I brought it up to kind of check in on it. And then at some point, he did let me know that they weren't going to do an investigation. Did he? So after this initial Zoom call where you shared Ms. Slate's concerns with Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath, you had another follow-up conversation with Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni about concerns regarding their behaviour on set. It was probably just Jamie. Okay, and it was probably a non-specific call. I believe at that point we were probably on the phone multiple times a day and was coming up in the course of various other conversations. So the follow-up discussion you recall being just with Mr. Heath. Yes, I believe so. And it was on the phone. Mr. Heath shared with you during that follow-up conversation that Wayfarer would not be investigating concerns about his behaviour or Mr. Baldoni's behaviour. That was the final call about it. There was, I believe, one in the middle where we were just talking about it, about the possibility of doing it again. What do you recall about the middle call? Not much, probably just me pushing for it to happen again. Why were you pushing for an investigation to occur? Because I wanted the behaviour to be taken seriously. Because I wanted the behaviour to be taken seriously. As you would. And also, if you were in a safe space. And also, since I hadn't been there to see any of it, it's the way that you sort of address and handle these things and could hopefully make for a more comfortable work environment for everyone going forward. That is the reasoning of a good leader. Based on your conversation with Ms. Slate, did you believe that she was genuinely uncomfortable with Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's behaviour? Yes. Did Mr. Heath ever explain why Wayfarer would not be conducting an investigation into Ms. Slate's concerns about Mr. Heath's and Mr. Baldoni's behaviour? Not sort of tap danced around the idea that it would be better for all of this not to be on an official record. Do you have an understanding what does that mean to you? That he didn't want the behaviour written down. We can't write it down to him. Might get into the wrong hands. Documented anywhere in the event that someone wanted to talk about it again in the future. Is this what Justin meant by stopping time? Your impression is that Mr. Heath did not want Wayfarer to conduct an investigation into concerns about his and Mr. Baldoni's behaviour because he didn't want a written record of it anywhere. Correct. What do you recall Mr. Heath saying? Do you recall Mr. Heath saying anything specifically that gave you that impression? No. But that's your recollection of why Wayfarer decided not to conduct an investigation into the behaviour raised by Ms. Slate. Direct your attention back to Exhibit 6, please. Let me just... We can tie all the... This is a comment. We can tie all the critiques they projected onto BL and RR to the actual people who they belong to. For example, Wayfarer did the marketing. BL had nothing to do with it. Yeah, I see that. I see everything was in his head. And we're on page 43 of this deposition, and there's been nothing said so far, we're just about to get to it, that has even come from Blake Lively. It seems to me like he wanted to make her the scapegoat for his failings. And honestly, because I believe he really wanted to be friends with her. But for some reason, and also she was so nice to him in all the messages I saw. I mean, the fact that she invited him to his home, him to her home. She took him on her private jet. He didn't mention that in the timeline, so they could work on the script together for an extra 6 hours. Does that sound like someone that was trying to undermine him and take power over him? No, it sounds like someone that was being very hospitable, especially as she'd just given birth. Woo! Okay. You sent a text to Miss Janetti that says, texted Blake, no answer yet. Do you see that? Yes. Do you have a recollection of texting Blake at that time? I don't. Do you recall why you would have been texting Ms. Lively on May 29th? After just having... Please. Direct your attention to the message at 9:35 a.m. You sent Ms. Janetti a text stating, we had a very good, tough chat with Blake. She was eloquent and on point. Called Jamie out in front of me and Justin, kindly. Do you see that? Yes. What are you referring to here? I believe this was a meeting in her trailer about the concerns. On or around June 1st, you had a meeting in Miss Lively's trailer. That's what it looks like. I did not remember it. Do you recall who was at that meeting? I don't, but I assume me, Jamie, Justin, and Blake. Does this message you sent that Miss Lively called out Jamie and Justin in front of you refresh your recollection that you, Jamie, Justin, and Ms. Lively had a meeting on June 1st? It does a little, but we had so many meetings over the course of the shoot that I'm not certain I'm remembering the exact one. I mean, that is very telling, isn't it? She doesn't remember a meeting where their inappropriate behavior was called out. It makes it seem like there was quite a bit of that going on. So do you remember a discussion of the meeting? Especially as she's saying she pressed them to do an inquiry or an investigation, sorry. Do you remember a discussion of the meeting, but not necessarily where it took place? No. Do you remember a situation in which Ms. Lively called out Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni in front of you? Not now, I'm remembering, but I don't remember many of the specifics, but I think I remember that this was in her trailer. What do you remember about what Miss Lively said during that meeting? Very little other than what I wrote. All I remember is her leaning against one side of the trailer. I think I was opposite her. Maybe Justin was here and maybe Jamie was there. And I do remember now that I'm reading it that and I don't remember the specifics of even what she said. I would have to keep reading. but that she was very direct but professional, and that was it. Oh my God, we're going to get into the birth video. Yeah. This is painting a very interesting different picture now. We're really starting to see I'm just seeing how much longer there is, because there's a lot. Yeah, we've got a lot. Oh, the Russian baths is coming up again. Oh my God, we have the book bonanza. Yeah. I might have to make this into a part 2. It's been quite a long live. So I might have to leave it for tonight. I appreciate everyone watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments. And I have appreciated the comments as well, good or bad, because even the bad ones show me that you just don't follow facts. Because if I'm going to comment on someone's page and make a personal comment about them, my channel's called Go Do Your Own Research. Even something as small as looking at someone's channel and seeing what their other content's about tells you something about that person before you go and comment something, making yourself look really stupid. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's all good. The more comments, the better for me. So comment away. And we will carry on with the rest of Alex's testimony. I hope you've enjoyed the extra context of listening to her interview and everything else that I presented to you on this live stream. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Don't forget that you can always like the video, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Have a lovely rest of the day or night. Peace.